If you brought a baby born 30,000 years ago into 2026 and raised them today, they could grow up to build rockets, code AI, or fly a jet fighter. But if we flipped the script, if I snatched away your phone and dropped you into 30,000 BC right now, you wouldn't just struggle. You'd likely be dead within 72 hours. But here's where it gets strange. Over the last 30,000 years, the human brain didn't get bigger. It actually shrank by a chunk the size of a tennis ball. So, was ancient human IQ actually higher than yours? Here's the part that breaks most people's assumptions. We like to imagine evolution as a straight line, getting bigger, better, smarter, with every generation. But brain size tells a different story. Around 20,000 to 30,000 years ago, the average human brain measured close to 1,500 cubic centimeters. Today, it's closer to 1,350. That's not a small difference. That's roughly 100 to 150 cubic centimeters, gone about the volume of a tennis ball, scooped straight out of our skulls. So, what happened? Did we get dumber? Not exactly. And this is where the story gets genuinely interesting. Brain size alone has never been a reliable measure of intelligence. Elephants and whales have brains far larger than ours. Yet they don't build cities or write code. What actually matters is structure. How densely packed the neurons are, how efficiently different regions communicate, and how the brain is organized for specific tasks. One leading theory suggests our brains didn't shrink because we got weaker. They shrank because we got more efficient. As human societies grew larger and more cooperative, some scientists believe our brains began prioritizing social processing and energy efficiency over raw survival instinct. Essentially, we started outsourcing our thinking to each other, to tribes, to shared knowledge, to culture itself. In other words, we didn't need as much individual brain power once we had each other. Now, let's talk about what we know for certain. Not brain volume, but demonstrated intelligence. Cave art. In Lascaux, France, paintings dating back roughly 17,000 years show detailed, anatomically accurate depictions of animals in motion. This wasn't decoration. This was symbolic communication, the ability to represent an idea, a memory, or a story through abstract imagery. That's a cognitive skill on par with modern art and language. Tool-making. Ancient humans didn't just pick up rocks. They shaped them, deliberately, precisely, for specific purposes. A blade for cutting, a point for hunting, a scraper for hides. This required planning, foresight, and an understanding of cause and effect. It's the same mental process an engineer uses today, just without a workshop. Fire control. Managing fire isn't instinct. It's applied science. Knowing which materials burn, how long they last, how to contain and use flames safely for cooking, warmth, or protection. This demanded real problem-solving under pressure. Language. Perhaps the most staggering achievement of all. Complex spoken language allowed early humans to pass down knowledge across generations, warning their children about poisonous plants, dangerous predators, and safe water sources. That's not just communication. That's long-term planning, encoded into speech. Every one of these achievements demanded the same kind of brainpower we use today to solve problems, build systems, and pass on knowledge. Here's where most people get surprised. The scientific consensus isn't that ancient humans were smarter than us or dumber than us. It's that they were, biologically, the same. Anthropologists call this cognitive equivalence. The theory states that Homo sapiens' raw problem-solving capacity has remained essentially unchanged for the last 40,000 to 50,000 years. Take a newborn from the Stone Age, raise them with modern schooling and technology, and their brain would be just as capable of learning calculus, coding software, or flying that jet fighter we mentioned earlier. So, if the hardware is the same, what's actually different? The real answer isn't intelligence. It's information. Every piece of knowledge you take for granted, math, science, language structure, how electricity works, how to read a map, exists because thousands of generations before you spent their entire lives discovering it, testing it, and passing it down. You didn't invent any of that. You inherited it. An ancient human had none of that inheritance. Every single discovery, fire, tool use, edible plants, safe water, had to be earned through direct trial and error, often at the cost of human lives. Their intelligence wasn't lower. Their starting point was just radically different. This is exactly why dropping you into 30,000 BC would be so dangerous. It's not because your brain is weaker than theirs. It's because you'd be missing 30,000 years of accumulated survival knowledge that ancient humans built from scratch, generation after generation, through trial, error, and sheer will to survive. Meanwhile, that same ancient baby, raised in our world, wouldn't be missing anything. They'd have access to everything we've built: schools, books, the internet, mentors, and their brain would absorb it exactly like yours did. Not higher, not lower, equal, just applied differently. Ancient humans were expert problem solvers in a world with zero safety nets. Every decision, what to eat, where to sleep, which direction to run, was a matter of life and death, solved with nothing but observation, memory, and raw reasoning. Today, we solve differently. We specialize, we Google, we rely on institutions and inherited systems built by millions of people before us. Neither version of the human brain is superior. They're the same operating system, just running on completely different amounts of accumulated data. The next time you see a documentary about primitive humans, remember this: the person on your screen had the exact same brain you're using to watch it. They weren't less evolved. They weren't less capable. They were simply born before the data existed. Intelligence was never really about brain size or even IQ scores. It's about adaptability, the ability to solve the problems right in front of you with whatever you've got. And if that's the real definition of intelligence, maybe the question isn't whether ancient humans were smarter than you. Maybe it's whether you'd have survived being them. So tell me in the comments, if you were dropped into 30,000 BC right now, would you survive the first 72 hours? And if this made you rethink what primitive really means, hit subscribe, because we're going deeper into the ancient mind next.